Everyone, and welcome back to the Musical Transformation Seminar. Just as a reminder, we're embarking on this journey, and I'm going to be sharing some tools, skills, insight, and expression of the true innate potential we have to become the best musical version of ourselves. That's the purpose of this channel, is to help you to achieve and evolve, many great things. The first thing that I wanted to talk about today is a very simple phrase, but it's a powerful phrase. We are music. Now, what does that mean? We are music. We are music. Music is us. We are made of sound vibrations. And when we remind ourselves that music and ourselves are one, it all becomes much more simple to do what's called unlocking our musical wizardry, bringing forth those energies from within ourselves to be able to really express what we want to express. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This video again is about how to come in touch with this sound force within yourself and really transform sound into the way that you want it to sound, right? There's not really any rules. We learn these rules and fundamentals in music as a structure and a guideline for us to get started, and it's all very important. But at a certain point, once we learn these rules, it's about breaking them, and that's what we're going to talk about today. You know, we're going to talk about this concept of alchemy, and alchemy is really cool because alchemy is really where musical freedom begins. Alchemy is this concept of molding sound into the way that we want it to sound, our vision of the sound, and then expressing that sound to other people as a force of transformational medicine, as a force of sharing, our story, what we've been through, what we want to share. And it all comes back to the heart energies. So, that's what we're going to talk about today. Alchemy. It's such an amazing tool. If we're going to bring this into a context maybe that you can understand on a deeper level, let's say that you are in the practice room, right? And you're practicing your instrument. In the moment that you're actually practicing, rather than just going through the mechanics, I encourage you to try this. Sit in the practice room, try to sit, in a grounded posture and feel your present emotional state. Try to come in touch with how you're emotionally feeling. Every day it's going to be different. Our energy is always changing on the daily, right? So, there might be days where you're feeling fantastic and you're feeling super in balance and, your practice session is flowing. There might be other days where it's just pretty normal and average and everything's okay. And there might be some other days where your practice session is just not happening, right? Something isn't in balance. So this process of utilizing alchemy and coming in touch with the heart energies is going to allow you to come back into that flow and balanced state when you're practicing, right? So again, this is a great exercise. You can, sit in a good posture, grounded, feeling balanced. Get yourself into a balanced emotional state, and then start to feel. You can even close your eyes. Start to feel what emotions are coming to the surface for you while you are playing a piece of music, while you're practicing an exercise, while you're playing anything that you'd like. And observe the sensations that are coming to the surface within yourself, right? Now, once you've observed those sensations, let's say, for example, maybe you're feeling a sensation of joy when you are practicing your seventh chords diatonically because you're moving through frequencies, you're moving through harmonies, and that's something that's joyful. Well, you can take that joy and do something with it, right? You feel the joy. Well, let's enhance this joy by fill in the blank. It's totally up to you. There's no definite answer, right? That's what's so beautiful. That's what's so beautiful about this is it's completely unique to you, right? Alchemy, synthesizing, coloring. We're going to talk about color as well. Oscillating. If you're working with electronic sounds too, this becomes so vastly amazing and infinite. And there are all these actions that lead to coming in touch with that sound force, like we talked about. And this shouldn't feel forced. That is a very important aspect of this. It should feel like an effortless flow of musical messaging coming through you. Now, when I say musical messaging, it doesn't have to be words. Of course, words are powerful and words really help us understand, but it can be sound frequencies, instrumental as well. That's what's so powerful about music is that it's a universal language that everybody can understand no matter what language that they speak. So, this effortless flow of musical messaging can be something that you utilize as a very powerful tool when you're practicing as well as when you're on stage or in the studio. Now, let's bring this to the stage, right? This is that moment. And, when coming on stage, sometimes we can feel uh, emotions of maybe some nervousness, emotions of, maybe some hesitancy that can come up. But when we come into this effortless flow, when we come into this balanced state before we come on stage, it helps so much. Something I love to do, and I know a lot of other musicians love to do, is before a performance, sometimes there's a green room or maybe there's a space outside that's quiet. Uh, you know, take a moment, take 5, 10, 15 minutes before you go on stage to do some deep breathing. Come in touch with that balanced state that you have within you, ground yourself. And, it can be a very unique, special moment to you, whatever that you feel that you want to do and say in that moment, you know, to come in touch with your heart. It makes all the difference once you start performing. Yeah, it's setting an intention, right? When we set an intention that we want to have a wonderful show and we want to express from our heart and we want to connect with the other musicians on stage, we want to connect with the audience in a beautiful way. When we set that intention before we start, it's most likely going to happen. It all comes down to that, notion of communicating it to ourselves first, and then it translates, energy flows. So, yes, like I mentioned, we can come in touch with this musical wizardry by allowing our emotions to come to the surface. That is so important. Now, I want to talk about that a little bit more deeply. Emotions coming to the surface. Now, this, applies to all of life, but in the world of music, when we're performing a piece of music that means something to us, and if it also can relate and connect to somebody else that's listening, emotions can come to the surface. Sometimes sad emotions, sometimes, joyful emotions, sometimes neutral emotions. It varies on a scale, right? And when we can allow all of the emotions to come to the surface, allow the emotions to be what they are, not judge them, not, try and change them, you know, they're going to change on their own when the timing is right. But if we allow the emotions to come to the surface and observe what we're feeling and understand the root of those emotions, uh, amazing things can happen. And that's where the true alchemy happens in the creation of music and the performance of music. And, expressing those emotions and channeling, those feelings that come to the surface can then relate. It's like puzzle pieces and connect with different aspects of music. For example, note choice. Note choice is one. Now, note choice is super, super important. Note choice all comes down to what color do I want to express in the context of a melody, right? What note will I choose, perhaps when I'm improvising a solo? What note will I choose in the next note of this melody that I'm composing? What note will I choose when I'm playing this bass line? I mean, it's vastly infinite in terms of note choice. And the cool thing about note choice, this is a story that the great Herbie Hancock shared that I'd love to share, is, you know, you could play what's quote unquote a mistake in music, something that obviously sounds out of place. Is it a mistake or is it wrong? No. But maybe to the ear, oh, what is that, right? So Herbie shares the story. He was on stage with Miles Davis, and they were playing a tune, and he clearly played a wrong chord in the chord changes. It was just blatantly wrong. Now, in any typical situation, the band leader might look over at the piano player and say, "What are you doing, man? You're playing the wrong chord." But Miles did something different, and this is so inspiring. Instead of judging what Herbie played, Instead of, shaming him, how dare you for playing the wrong chord, Miles used note choice. He chose a note that made Herbie's chord sound correct. He used alchemy. He transformed the sound. He moved with the choice that Herbie made to support that choice, even though it wasn't intentional on Herbie's side, right? But what was the result? Unity between two human souls. Um, you know, Miles showed a deep maturity in choosing to follow, the choice that Herbie made, like I said. And, chord choice is another nuance, is another aspect of channeling these emotions, right? What chord do we choose to play when we're creating chord progressions, when we are, jamming with other musicians, right? These subtle nuances that I'm speaking about make all the difference. It's the micro details, right? The micro details in music, when you really dig deep beneath the surface, is where all of the deep magic happens, because subtle nuances make up these sound frequencies, right? And it's just such an amazing world to explore. So another aspect of this is groove and pocket. Let's talk about groove and pocket. When we're playing a song, it can be any song. Every song has some type of groove or some type of pocket. Now, in the world of funk, soul, rock, reggae, jazz, hip hop, you name it, this concept of pocket really comes from the rhythm section, the bass and the drums as that foundation, of course. And, the piano and the guitar also add to it. But when you create a groove in a pocket that feels good, it makes all the difference for people listening, people dancing, the lead that is being, that you're accompanying for. It just creates this beautiful, setting for everybody involved. And finally, and I think one of the most important aspects of, allowing these emotions to come to the surface is telling your story. What story are you telling with your musical expression? And, telling a story all comes down to a really important fundamental concept, which is phrasing. How do you phrase your phrases, just like you're telling a story in words, but with notes, right? With chords, with rhythm. And, all of these aspects are a way to channel your emotions. That's the whole point of this, right? So, in terms of emotions coming to the surface, that's what we're talking about. So, moving forward, this all comes from, expressing from the body, expressing from the heart, right? We have this physical body that we're able to express with. And, when I speak about the heart, I'm not just speaking about the physical organ of the heart. It's the energy of the heart, right? We have our mind, we have our heart, we have our brain, and we have our organ heart, right? That's the physical embodiment. But, there's a connection between our physical form and our heart and soul form, right? And it allows for the innate power source to become, this energetic awareness that we have of the soul expressing it. So, you know, all of these things that we're talking about come from that heart space rather than just the physical organ, just to clarify. So, the next question that we can ask ourselves is, how do we take all of the fundamental music concepts we've learned, right? Not just on paper, also in terms of ear training, our trained musical ears. And how do we use it all for a purpose, right? This concept of applying fundamentals. Because we could learn theory all day, but if we're not using it in a way that's, expressive and powerful and useful, I don't see much of a point in it. And I would wonder if you all agree, because fundamentals, the point of fundamentals are that they're tools. They are just tools to help us express and create and perform music, right? So yeah, that's a question you can ask yourself. How can I take the fundamentals that I've learned and that I'm continuing to learn and apply them in many different environments? In the studio, on stage, in the practice room, teaching a student, right? When I'm learning, right? all of these fundamentals can be applied in different ways, right? Let's come to another question. And this one is a very, very, very important one. A question you can ask yourself is, what is my purpose in music? This word purpose is crucial in terms of unlocking your musical wizardry, right? We can only unlock our musical wizardry when we can become clear as to what our purpose is, right? And don't worry, it's not something that, if when you're asking yourself this question, it's a challenging question to answer, there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually phenomenal, and I'll explain why. When you're asking yourself this question and it might seem difficult, you are coming to an understanding as to where you're at on your journey, right? And that's beautiful. So if it is a difficult question to answer, your first step is letting those emotions come to the surface and feeling, why is this a difficult question for me to answer? Well, let's start with, why do I love music, right? And maybe if you ask yourself why you've gravitated towards music, that will be the first stepping stone, the first puzzle piece, right? And you deciphering what your purpose in music is, right? And when we can slowly, step by step, sharpen this energetic awareness that we're speaking of and talk about this purpose in music and define our purpose in music, everything becomes clear as to why we're doing what we're doing, right? And you start to really understand from the outside world all of these signs and all of these kind of synchronicities as to the reflection of what's going on within, right? So, super fascinating. The next question you can ask yourself, this is number 3, and our final question. Why have I chosen music as a medium for me to express my story and the oneness of this existence, right? I know these are some pretty deep questions, but when we can reflect on these questions, that is when the alchemy and the wizardry begins to happen, right? So, a lot of people have also shared in the world of music that we are mediums, right? And if you don't know what this word medium means, it means, it's like a gateway, right? Music is sound vibration that comes from a higher realm than the physical, right? That's something also to keep in mind. We are experiencing this physical reality, right? But there are realities beyond the physical, right? And music, sound vibration, exists in a reality beyond 3D. And we have the ability, we have the potential, every single soul that exists has the ability and has the potential to be able to draw in, right, and channel energies from higher vibrational existences. And that's what we do when we're performing music, right? We're coming in touch with higher vibrations beyond the physical and sharing it within this physical reality. That's why so many people love music. That's why music is a medicinal, transformational force of positivity, is because it's coming from a higher vibration beyond us. And it's absolutely wonderful. Not just beyond us, something that's a part of us, something that we feel connected to, right? Beyond the physical portion of us is what I'm referring to. So when you can reflect and answer these questions step by step, it's going to bring this awareness and sharpen your ability to be able to allow for that deep musical power you have within yourself to come to the surface, to come to the forefront. And, it becomes clear when you're actually making music, right? Have you ever been maybe at a jam session or a concert or even watching a video online, and you can feel the energy of someone that is just pouring their heart out when they're performing, right? You can feel it. It's an emotional impact. It moves you. That's because they're coming in touch with that power, that superpower that we all have in this world to be able to express. So it's all super cool stuff. So, of course, this brings that opportunity to grow and evolve, right? Step by step, bit by bit, I also like to use the analogy of a sculptor's block, those big white slabs that, they chip away at the sculpture bit by bit, step by step. They're sitting there for hours, and maybe in one day they'll make a little chunk, just a little chunk. And the next day, and even the next chunk. And, days and weeks and months and years go by, and you look back and you say, wow, it's a slow evolution, but it's happening. The growth is there. It's moving, right? This kind of development, it takes time, right? There's never a rush. You know, evolution of self, evolution of your musical abilities, it's all about the timing. It's all about how much you put into it, and that's what you're going to get back as well, of course, right? So when you can tell yourself that there's never a rush and that it takes time, it relieves this pressure, you know, stress, anxiety. None of it is necessary, actually. And, you know, if we have this pressure, stress, and anxiety, it's totally okay. It's about learning how to accept that it's there and learning how to, again, bit by bit, move, in another direction to allow it to reintegrate yourself or release out into the cosmos, right? And the more that we can do this, the more that we're going to allow this musical flow that we have, right, to grow and to move, right? So, allowing this energy to move through our bodies from, the roots of the earth, right? We're on a planet. And through our instrument, this allows the expression to occur. And this is going to take me to, the last portion of this video. And it's about a word, a vibration, something I've discovered, in the last several years that is absolutely fascinating. And it's a word that is called Amyo, Ahmyo. And you can say it like Amyo, right? And what it means is absolute trust in self. And that's powerful right there, right? Because, as creators, learning and growing, evolving on this planet, it can be a challenge to trust ourselves. All of us, right? There will be moments where we're not trusting ourselves. Maybe we're doubting something. Maybe we're afraid of an outcome, right? Maybe we're just not feeling sure of ourselves. That's okay. But the goal is to, step by step move towards that absolute trust in self, that no matter what is happening, any challenge that we face, no matter where we're at along our journey, if we can come in touch with that absolute trust that we do have, we all have it. Our higher self has that absolute trust, right? So it's not about trying to attain it from somewhere out here. It's about coming in touch with it that's already there, right? That is when the deepest transformation happens, right? It is just so amazing. It's a vibration, right? Not in the outside world, not in other people, not in deities, not in entities or anything else. It's in yourself, right? Amyo. It's so cool. It's the moment that you get to that point, you unlock potentials that were previously unknown to you, right? When you're making this evolution and when you're making this change, it's like opening new doors that you never even knew existed. It's like you have these blinders on for so long, and then, you evolve to a point that all of a sudden you remove these blinders and there's treasure everywhere. It's absolutely wonderful, right? It's when you're in that place of Amyo, absolute trust in self, right? I'm creating my own life. I don't care what the outside circumstances may look like. I'm still creating it. I am the commander of this ship. And this is exciting. We're moving into this new energy. We're moving forward, right? Absolute, unconditional, unmental trust in self, right? Amyo. And when you're at that point, which you already are, you just have to recognize it. That's it. It's simple. But again, sculpting away at that sculptor's block, step by step, right? To unlock that musical wizardry within yourself. So, it's an exciting journey. So, if this is something that you resonate with and something that you feel is in touch with your path right now at this timing, feel free to reach out to me, here on YouTube in the comments. Feel free to, subscribe to my channel so that you can, I want to share more of this with you. And, if you're really feeling like this is something that you want to dive deeper into, I'm happy to have a conversation with you about it. I have my Instagram handle linked here in the description. Feel free to send me a DM. I also have my email on my YouTube channel as well. Feel free to send me a message. I'd be happy to talk to you about it if this is something that you want to look into further. I'm also giving out a free sample pack, a free Vintage Soul keyboard sample pack. Link in the description if you'd like that as well. And if you'd like to subscribe to the Musical Transformation Seminar, the link is down below as well, to, stay in touch with this guidance that I'm sharing on how to evolve into the greatest musical version of yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video. Ciao.